We now invite our speaker, Penny Reid.
Thank you. So good morning. So as what's his name? as Todd mentioned, I did this sermon a couple of years ago, and Peter asked me to do a reprise, which I was quite honored about, actually. So I'll get to it in just a second. For those of you who can't quite see what I'm wearing, I have giraffe. I'm a giraffe. I'm a giraffe in a herd. So this is just the top of some pajamas that one of my kids gave me, so it's covered with giraffes. I love giraffes, and I have them everywhere in my house, on the walls. And one time, probably 6 years ago, my grandson decided to walk around the house and count everything he could find, and he got up to 84. So, once you decide you like something, people give it to you. Yeah, so I do like giraffes a lot. Okay, so anyway, why Halloween? How did it start? And especially, why does its popularity persist and grow in our modern culture? So I had always thought that Halloween was just an extension of the Celtic holiday Samhain, which is the holiday festival that commemorates the beginning of winter. And it's actually much more complicated. Some theories suggest that Samhain may have been Christianized as All Hallows Day, since Christians were really good at appropriating pagan customs to develop Christian holidays, just like Christmas and Easter. Other academics say Halloween began independently as a Christian holiday, being the vigil of All Hallows Day. It turns out that this most secular of our holidays probably started as a Christian religious tradition. I think we all know that the word Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve, which is the night before the Christian holy days of All Hallows, or Saints' Day, on November 1st, and All Souls' Day on November 2nd. So Halloween is the eve before All Hallows Day. The 3 days are collectively known as All Hallowtide, and are a time when Western Christian honor saints, or hallows, martyrs, and all faithful departed on November 1st. And then they pray for recently departed souls who have yet to reach heaven on November 2nd. Some Christian sects today practice the observances of All Hallows Eve, including attending church services and lighting candles on the graves of the dead on Halloween. All Hallows Eve is just the night before All Saints' Day, just like Christmas Eve. There is some speculation that the date of November 1st for All Saints' Day, established in the early 9th century, was set because it coincided with the Gaelic festival of Samhain. And thus Samhain was Christianized as All Hallows Day along with its eve. Other academics believe Halloween began solely as a Christian holiday and just happened to coincide with Samhain because both are observed at a time when the darkness is descending, and it's getting colder, and it's not quite, but roughly halfway between the summer solstice and the winter solstice. Either way, the chicken or the egg, essentially it's believed that Samhain and All Saints' Day basically influenced each other and our modern Halloween. Samhain is one of the 4 Gaelic seasonal festivals marking the beginning of winter. Because the Gaelic day goes from sundown to sundown, the festival starts on October 31st at sundown, All Hallows Eve. This was a time when cattle were brought down from the summer pasture, livestock was slaughtered because there wouldn't be enough grain to feed them all through the winter, And special bonfires were lit, and they were felt to have special protective and cleansing powers. Like the Gaelic May 1st festival Beltane, Samhain is considered to be a liminal time when the boundary between this world and the other world is particularly thin, making contact with the spirits or fairies way more likely. The souls of dead kin which were still wandering about were thought to visit homes seeking hospitality, and a place was set at the table for them during the feasting meal. In some Celtic regions, offerings of food for the spirits were actually placed outside the homes or even on grave sites. In Celtic-speaking parts of Britain, mumming and guising, which was essentially informal troops of actors and people in disguise, were a later addition to the festivities, becoming more common in the 16th century and beyond. The costumes may have been a way of imitating and disguising yourself from the actual spirits released during the festival, some of whom were out to seek revenge for their deaths, so you wanted to hide. By the 15th century, in the Celtic parts of the British Isles, customs also included baking and sharing soul cakes, kind of like hot cross buns, for all christened souls, and this has been suggested as the origin of trick-or-treating. Groups of poor people, especially children, will go door to door collecting soul cakes in exchange for praying for the dead, especially the giver's friends and relatives. Soul cakes were also offered for the souls themselves to eat, and soulers would act as their representatives. While souling, they would carry lanterns made out of hollowed out turnips, the precursor to our jack-o'-lanterns. Shakespeare even mentions souling in The Two Gentlemen of Verona. Things shifted somewhat during the Protestant Reformation, since Protestants didn't particularly care for all that Catholic purgatory stuff. Although All Hallows' Day remained on the liturgical calendar and festivals continued in Celtic-speaking regions, it was traditionally believed that the souls of the departed wander the earth until All Saints' Day, which would be November 1st. And All Hallows' Eve provided one last chance for the dead to gain vengeance on their enemies before moving on to the next world. In order to avoid being recognized by any soul that might seek such vengeance, people would don masks or costumes. In Ireland and the Scottish Highlands, people dressing up and imitating malignant spirits led to playing pranks, starting sometime in the 18th century, and that is considered a precursor for our modern trick part of trick-or-treat. As you can imagine, early immigrants to New England weren't in favor of Halloween or All Saints' Day festivities, as it wasn't until the influx of Irish and Scottish immigrants in the 19th century that Halloween became a well-known and major holiday in America. Most Halloween traditions were inherited from the Irish and the Scots. Initially confined to these immigrant communities, Halloween gradually assimilated into mainstream society and was celebrated across the land by the early 20th century. Interestingly, through American influence, these Halloween traditions have now spread back to Europe and other countries by the late 20th and early 21st century. I thought that was interesting. Just a couple of other interesting tidbits about some of these traditions. As I said, Irish and Scottish people traditionally carve turnips for Halloween. Immigrants to America use the native pumpkin. It's bigger, it's softer, and it's much easier to carve. I can't imagine trying to carve a turnip. Trick-or-treating probably grew out of the custom of guising, as I said, which is actually practiced in Ireland until the 1930s, and a form of it is still practiced in the rural Philippines. And while early 20th century postcards show pictures of children, they don't show trick-or-treating, which doesn't seem to have become widespread in the United States until the 1930s. And that's also when they started setting up things like haunted houses, for entertainment. One article I read said trick-or-treating really took off in the 50s with the building of American suburbs in housing developments. The annual New York City's Village Halloween Parade was begun in 1974. It is the world's largest Halloween parade and America's only major nighttime parade, and attracts over 60,000, I think it's amazing, 60,000 costumed participants and 2 million spectators. Did you even know about it? Me either. It's anticipated that Americans, Todd's figures were a little off. So it's anticipated that this year, Americans will spend $13.1 billion, with a B, dollars for Halloween costumes, decorations, setting up haunted houses, etc. And that includes $860 million for pet costumes. And you may notice during this, I'm not talking about Dia de Muertos, which is a whole sermon by itself, I think. We might even talk about that next week, Peter? Yeah. Yeah, it's a different kind of event. And it's kind of a masterful combining of pagan practices and Catholic teachings. Yeah. So all of this sort of begs the question, why do we in this country continue to celebrate Halloween, which, if anything, has become more popular over the last 10 or 15 years? In a 2017 sermon, UU minister Gloria Holland talks about her earlier expectation that Halloween would slowly wither away on the pumpkin vine. You remember the scary urban legends about candy embedded with razor blades, or police stations setting up X-ray scanners to look at a kid's candy hauls? By the way, that pretty much wasn't a true thing. Gloria goes on to say, after all, parents have become more fearful and protective, less likely to allow their children to go out and encounter strangers. Plus, we know that too much sugary candy isn't good for kids. Many conservative Christians disparage Halloween as some sort of satanic pagan observance. And in our hectic workaholic society, traditions hold less sway, and I thought this meant that Halloween would die away. But it didn't. In addition to not withering up and dying away for kids, adults, hungry for some sweet celebration in their own lives, have embraced Halloween with gusto, dressing up in costumes, hosting elaborate parties, and the adultification of Halloween has definitely occurred. Again, why? In a New York Times essay a couple years ago, Melissa Kirch wrote, in spite of the ghouls and revenants and other morbid players from the sidewalk boneyard, Halloween is a holiday for the living. In a world that fears irretrievably online, where our every interaction is mediated by technology, Halloween, weirdly, is not. Trick-or-treating is an embodied activity. You have to show up. A Halloween costume is a physical get-up. You wear it out into the real world, where you interface with real people and get real candy. How quaint it seems when you think about it. For all the ways in which we might find legitimate fault with Halloween, it's too commercial, it's culturally insensitive, it promotes greed and tooth decay. It's a refreshingly mundane celebration. I don't know about you, but I love trick-or-treaters, even the big kids who sort of like to pretend to be little for the night, or at least get some free candy. The little ones are so darling in their Elsa or Fairy or Spider-Man costumes, all homemade. I made my, I'm sorry. And the kids are busy trying to figure out what this, especially the little ones, what is this weird thing that we're going up to strangers' houses and they're giving us candy? It makes me remember my own daughter's Halloween costumes, which I always made. They were never store-bought. And I even remember my own childhood costume. I was telling Lois about it. I was a gypsy. So I was like 7. I had short, curly blonde hair. Did not look like a gypsy. But I was pretty sure I did. I had jewels, and I had big earrings. And then we were in Ohio, and it was cold, and I had to wear a coat. I remember almost having a tantrum. And I will say my all-time favorite costume was another one I made for myself. At the time, I worked at a spinal cord injury rehab hospital, and the staff dressed up for Halloween, and staff members would bring their children after school. We'd give candy to the patients to hand out to the kids. And one year, I made a Jack Sparrow costume. I had the pantaloons, I had the long sleeve shirt, I had a beautiful vest with real buttonholes. I mean, I had long black wig, a pirate hat, pasted on beard. I was so cool. And as I stood watching the festivities in the hall, I suddenly heard this tiny little voice from down the hall, "Look, it's Jack Sparrow!" And an absolutely thrilled little 4-year-old came up and hugged me around the legs, and it was so much fun. So Halloween is fun. I think our pumpkin is burning up again. Fun for kids and adults, and it's nostalgic with lots of mostly fun memories. And there's a special bond at times with kids. It's tangible, and it's fun to see all the costumes, the ghosts and ghoulies and fairies and pirates, and the occasion, "Oh, that's an interesting costume." But what else is special about Halloween? Well, actually, there's a theory that people began wearing masks for Halloween in Celtic lands because it was believed that the souls of the departed roamed the earth until All Saints' Day. And All Hallows Eve was the last chance for the dead to wreak vengeance on their living enemies before moving on to the next world, which I mentioned. To avoid being recognized, living people wore masks to disguise themselves in case some dead soul had it in for them. And in truth, most of us wear some kind of mask all the time, often masking our true feelings to avoid embarrassment or ridicule or anger. But there's a possible paradox about wearing a physical Halloween mask. No one can tell who you are, so you get to be silly and dance and have fun and potentially reveal a part of yourself you normally don't share. As one of my friends said, when I put on my mask, I get to be who I really am. And maybe take off the mask we wear every day. And so that brings up the question, who are we, you and I really? It's interesting to remember that Halloween is considered to be that liminal space where the boundary between the living and the dead is at its thinnest, most permeable. As Reverend Holland says, whether or not you believe in any kind of existence beyond the death of our bodies, it's an auspicious time to gratefully acknowledge the love and wisdom that gets passed down from one generation to the next, and to remember and feel gratitude for the lives of those now gone. It's a time to remember and acknowledge where we're from, our heritage, and how we got here. Every decision made by every one of our ancestors created the person we are today. I'm going to say that again. Every decision made by every one of your ancestors created the person you are today and the place you are now, if you think about it. And every decision you make now will impact the future in some tiny or profound way. It's humbling to think about. In 2023, the Soul Matters theme was heritage. So it seems that Halloween could be the perfect day to reflect on what heritage means to you. So celebrate, have fun, wear a costume, enjoy the kiddos, feast on candy, take your mask off or put one on, and above all, enjoy dancing in your bones that you inherited from those who came before you, and appreciate all who brought you to this space and time. Blessed be.